I'm Vice Chair of the Financial Services Council, which I've been for about 4 years, 3 to 4 years. Been on the council probably longer than that, about 6 years. And then also I assist the marketing team with strategic initiatives. The economic outlook for financial services next year is probably as uncertain as it has been this year. One of the things that is becoming a reality is the uncertainty is actually a norm. Consumers are becoming much more confident with living in the present. They're becoming much less confident with living in the future. So long-term planning, financial services products designed around long-term planning, are having less resonance with consumers currently. There are tighter squeezes on margins, and that's going to continue next year. So with it will become a focus on specific direct channels. Those that are more accountable will rise to the top as ROI and cost of acquisition metrics become very much more important. Key predictions for financial services next year are going to hinge a lot around the anticipated role of the Financial Conduct Authority. Will they allow consumers to understand financial services products as they need to understand them, or will there be increased regulation? There is more regulation coming down the line next year, things like the EU Gender Directive, which will have an impact on risk modelling, which will impact the back end of things, risk segmentation, economic metric modelling, but for the marketeer, front of house, messaging and media will be impacted. In terms of the biggest growth areas in financial services direct marketing, I think there are probably 4 that will probably be worth pulling out. Mobile is clearly going to be a space that grows for financial services providers, and as they become more familiar with the technology and start to appreciate how it can improve customers' lives beyond convenience, then it will certainly start to impact what happens within the financial services marketplace. A second area I would say is generally digital. I think we're finally seeing direct marketeers reclaim digital from the designers, and whereas previously display has been king, data is now the oil that drives direct marketing within the digital arena. And we will see a lot more when financial services direct marketeers finally recognise it as not another media channel, but as a completely different business model. The third area I'd say is in terms of propositions. We look at aggregators out there who are a route to market for some financial services organisations, but I know they're asking themselves, why do we do this again? Because the cannibalisation of their own book, the reduction of margins in trying to compete on price, have made it a much less engaged purchase for their consumers, and they'll be considering alternatives. And the fourth area is loyalty, with more focus on retention. Service providers are going to need to think about how they're going to retain their customers, and the loyalty space is a very prevalent one for retention. Financial services providers perhaps haven't been the best at this at times, and can look to their retail colleagues to know how to actively engage and retain customers through loyalty programs, but it definitely is a space that they're going to need to start thinking about. In terms of technology advancements coming down the line for next year, I think probably that the biggest impact will be the changing landscape in the payments markets. We have contactless embedded into some payment cards, and this will extend and evolve to eventually, even as some commentators said, make plastic the shortest lived currency of all time, as we see payments happening through our phones, and someone showed me a couple of days ago, even through our watches. So this type of technology is in place. It's just down to certain players within the infrastructure to adopt it. But I think the payment landscape will be massively advanced, and the technology is there. EMV chips are already in place.